I want to specifically acknowledge Professor Sipho Siepe, who is going to speak today here as part of countering the narrative around President Jacob Zuma. Comrades, in all provinces today, the 12th of April, which is the birth date of President Jacob Zuma, we have got programs and different speakers and activities that are beginning to speak about the life and times, the revolutionary contributions of President Jacob Zuma. For many years, as a revolutionary, as a freedom fighter, even as a head of state and government, there have been so many reactionary and counter-narratives that wanted to portray President Zuma as incapable, as not knowing what he is doing. And the reason why such was sustained over a long period of time is because President Zuma has never been a project of the white capitalist minority system. There is not a single handler under apartheid, post-apartheid, even when President Zuma was in prison. There is not a single handler who can say that they handled President Zuma and they told them or told him what to do. So all provinces are countering the narrative that seeks to denigrate, that seeks to erode the contribution of President Zuma in the struggles against apartheid, colonialism, and in the struggle for total emancipation. Comrades, some of us, just in the recent past, are very fortunate to work very closely with President Zuma. Although there is history which we can talk about elsewhere, but one thing that we can confirm, 5 features that define President Zuma, is that one, he is a humble servant of the people. And that is what makes him great. There is no one who can ever rise to greatness unless they are humble. President Zuma is the most humble of leaders. And you see on how he interacts with everyone. Wherever he is, he talks with everyone irrespective of social standing, irrespective of age, irrespective of class, irrespective of religious affiliation, irrespective of whether that person has got money or not. President Zuma listens to each and every person that speaks to him with maximum respect. That is a demonstration of humility of President Zuma. Number 2 is that President Zuma is highly knowledgeable. You know, President Zuma is one of the most knowledgeable political leaders. There are so many people who have gone to schools and received certificates who even now do not even have a quarter of the knowledge that President Zuma has about the issues that affect our people. Also about what is happening in the continent. Also about what is happening in the world. He has got a far much better understanding of the global balance of forces than many other people who play a role in those spaces. But also President Zuma is very decisive. He takes decisions when he realizes that this is a wrong thing, when he realizes that this is not legitimate, it's not genuine, he takes decisions. He doesn't wait for tomorrow. He takes decisions on things that have to protect the interest of the people. The other aspect that defines our president is that he is a revolutionary through and through. He does not sacrifice principle on the altar of political convenience. He doesn't shift because he is speaking to someone else. He is very consistent on revolutionary principles. He is the most consistent, number 5. He is the most consistent defender of the Freedom Charter. Not just the defender of the Freedom Charter, but also did everything else in his power, even as head of state and president, to achieve the aims and objectives of the Freedom Charter. Part of the reasons why President Zuma started Umkhonto weSizwe is because he knew that those who are leading the former liberation movement, the African National Congress, have abandoned the Freedom Charter and will not take the road of defending the Freedom Charter. Some of us were fortunate in October 2023 to get a political presentation and discussion on why Umkhonto weSizwe as a party must be formed to represent majority of our people. In that discussion, President Zuma highlighted 2 most important things. One, he spoke about unity of the progressive forces and illustrated a simple fact that for many centuries now, for many decades, we as black people, the African majority, the people who look like me and you, have been under a system of colonial conquest. Whatever you can wish, even if you can listen to a motivational speaker or read motivational books that says that I'm not conquered, all the material conditions and illustrations about us black people here in South Africa is that we are still a conquered and defeated people. That is shown by a simple fact that we do not own our own land. Majority of the land is still in the hands and control of the colonial invaders, the colonial settlers, and their descendants. We are not in control of our own identity. We are still under the cultural domination of the settlers. Our wealth, our mineral wealth, is still under the hands of the colonial settlers. Our spaces, everything that defines us, is controlled by the colonial settlers. And President Zuma says the reason why in that situation is because in our wars of resistance against colonialism, we did not fight as a unified whole. The colonial invaders, they fought us in different battles. They were numerically, in terms of the numbers, they were far fewer than all of us. And to illustrate that, those of you who have studied history properly, go and check the battle which the oppressed majority won, was the Battle of Isandlwana. And in that battle, we were able to defeat the the white settlers because numerically we were far much bigger than them. We had superior capacity to resist colonial invasion. But the fact that all other battles we fought as small and unviable tribes and clans, that is why we got to be defeated and subjected to colonial rule, which is still a reality to this day. Colonialism has not yet been defeated. Why? Because black people have been fighting in small corners. And that is when he said then that we need to unite all the progressive forces to fight for total emancipation. And that is the agenda that we understood very well, that what role are these small political parties playing when you know that you have demonstrated over whatever number of years that you can't take political power? Why do you still want to exist as a separate political party instead of consolidating and pursue a bigger cause for total emancipation? And he said that Umkhonto weSizwe must therefore become a movement for unification of all genuinely anti-colonial, anti-racist, progressive forces to realize total freedom. And you know, in October 2023, the white parties and their puppets were already forming something called Moonshot Pact. That time, President Zuma says that don't pay attention to this Moonshot Pact. He says, what I know now is that the whites are going to take over the African National Congress. You know, at that time, it did not look possible. He says, I know now that the whites are going to take over the ANC and they're going to form government together, and then they will continue to oppress us like they've been doing for many years. They are going to actually make oppression to be even far much more harsher on all of us. Long before there were the fake discussions on whether there must be government of national unity or so-called, President Zuma saw it in October, even earlier than that the ANC is going to merge with the Democratic Alliance to further protect the interests of the white minority. And we, in that discussion, said, let's go and contest as different political parties that we must later on get to reunite to fight for our total freedom. So, comrades, don't ever listen to anyone who will say, no, President Zuma doesn't know anything. He knows properly what he's talking about. Do you know, in my other work when I was still growing up in my 20s, I used to work as part of the political educators of the South African Communist Party and COSATU and all its affiliates. And on several occasions, even before the Polokwane conference of the ANC, where President Zuma was elected decisively as the president of the ANC, he will come to conduct political education for a lot of COSATU affiliates. And the extent and depth of knowledge that he would give you will realize he will make exact references to very complex manuscripts. He will speak without any reference to anything. The first part of the Communist Manifesto that speaks about that the history of the hitherto existing society is a history of class struggle. He will speak clearly about that and still be able to explain that as to what it means. He would speak with eloquence as to what dialectical materialism is. He will define what science is. Those of you who have watched the several videos where he speaks about science and scientific politics, he defines science and he simplifies it for everyone else to understand. He would say that science is knowledge that is gained through observation, critically proven, assessed, and found to be true beyond any reasonable doubt. And we ourselves as students of the revolution, we got to understand that much more clearly. You know, in September last year, when Mkhonto Wesizwe was adopting the constitution of Mkhonto Wesizwe, he spoke at length about the global balance of forces. And part of the things that President Zuma was saying then, last year, he said that if these people knew what is coming, they were going to intensify our trade relationships with our friends in the BRICS bloc, because when he realized that the West is taking a different shape, he is the one who went to join BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. It became BRICS because of President Zuma and the addition of South Africa. Last year already he already foreseen that the West is going to behave in the manner it is doing now. He said that if there was leadership in this country, they would be intensifying our trade relationships with our friends. Because he could foresee just